Welcome to my Conscious Podcast. I'm Jessica Klingsborg, and this is a podcast where we dive into our inner worlds and the incredible skills hidden inside us. It is a space for honest and meaningful conversations where our guests share their stories and insights from their life experiences and journeys of self-discovery. In this episode, you will meet Zsuzsanna Ferenci, a global partner with the Conscious Business Institute, where she helps leaders and organizations foster cultures where purpose and performance align. Through her work, she is dedicated to creating fulfilling workspaces that empower individuals to show up as their authentic selves. Zsuzsanna's nearly 3-decade-long leadership journey began in the high-tech and financial service sectors. Over the years, she has built a wealth of business expertise and realized a profound insight that true greatness in leadership can only be achieved through a people-centric approach. She is a 3-time award winner in leadership and innovation, with a career spanning global giants like Hewlett-Packard and Citibank. Leading business development and marketing across London, Brussels, and Paris, Zsuzsanna gained invaluable experience with culturally diverse teams and what it takes to foster sustainable growth. Today, Zsuzsanna is a trusted advisor and facilitator, inspiring leaders to unlock their potential and make the leap from good to great. Her passion for building purpose-driven workplaces continues to transform organizations and empower the people within them. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the Conscious Podcast. I am Jessica Klingsborg, I'm your host, and I'm here to inspire deeper conversations, challenge the status quo, and explore what it truly means to lead and thrive consciously in today's world. So let's dive in. Together with me today, I have Zsuzsanna Ferenci, an extraordinary woman and professional with more than 2 decades of experience from leadership, marketing, and business development. And you are a global partner at the Conscious Business Institute, where you help leaders and organizations to foster cultures where purpose and performance meet. And this by creating a fulfilling workspace where individuals are encouraged to show up as their authentic beings. You are also a 3rd-time award winner within leadership and innovation. You were working in Hewlett-Packard and Citibank for many years. And you believe in joint vision. This is where you create a clear direction together with the key stakeholders, and which is then communicated out, aligned across different functions. And creating this kind of environment and having a people-centered leadership, I think you find this is the key to success, don't you? This is a little bit what we will dive into today. And so I want to wish you very welcome to the studio, Zsuzsanna. And how are you feeling today? What's lighting you up? What is inspiring you in this moment?
Thank you, Jessica. I think this conversation actually is very, very inspiring for me, to be honest, because this has been in the center of my heart for many, many, many years. How do we create organizations and environments for people where there is a true thriving? And talking about such a subject is so close to my heart that it really lights me up right now. So I'd like to stay with you in this present and don't think of anything else that's outside of this conversation.
No, exactly. And I've named this podcast to the Conscious Podcast. So it stands by itself that I'm so thrilled to have you here today. As a global partner of the Conscious Business Institute. I mean, conscious leadership is like crystallizing in the studio today. I'm very excited to have you here.
Thank you.
And yeah, we are in a very interesting shift in humanity and in this new paradigm where a more holistic approach to leadership is more and more embraced. Could you tell us a little bit about how it differs and disrupt the old model of, working towards leadership and creating thriving? I mean, in the old times, the productivity and do all these sales is, they are prioritizing that before connection and purpose. How is this new model then disrupting the old, would you say, if you can describe it a little bit to the listeners?
Sure. Very, very good question, Jessica. And maybe I'm going to start with an example. A very, very recent example. I had a conversation yesterday with an organization, and they described me their current way of operating. And the way they describe their current way of operating, which is very much in the current success model, is that there is a lot of corridor conversation, there is a lot of gossiping, and people don't feel safe, and they don't feel respected and recognized, and that creates a lot of tension and a lot of downward frustration in the whole organization. So when this happens, I keep asking myself that, how are you going to create something when the top of mind for people is that I need to protect myself, I need to win over someone else, I need to compete to stay alive. And that's really the old success model, isn't it? That striving for performance and only for performance means that I'm exclusive, meaning the opposite of inclusive, right? Sort of, I need to win so that you lose. I need to be number one so that I can stay alive. I need to stay relevant, and that means I need to grow. So the center of the success is really based on the fear that there is not enough out there where everyone can succeed. Either I succeed or you succeed. Either I'm number one or you number one. So the old success model is really based on the scarcity of resources, the scarcity of success. And the big question that we asked ourselves, which leads into an organization that I just had a discussion with yesterday, where there is fear already in the organization, where that sort of attitude towards success also present in the daily life of every employee who shows up at work. And so we really asked that question, or actually Peter Matisse, who is the founder of Conscious Business Institute, asked this question. And I believe I asked this question in my leadership journey for 30 years, that how could we create an organization where it's not based on this fear driven model, this scarcity driven model? Would there be another way to look at it? And I think what Peter recognized and discovered through many, many conversations and then his long number of years of research is that if we start from the point of view that we are who we are, so we are here with a purpose, every individual. And even when I abstract it to an organization, I often talk about this at the organization level as well, that as an organization, there is a reason why you were born. As an organization, there was a connection to a problem. There was a connection to an impact that created that collective idea to be born as a business. And then it's the same for individuals. So taking it to the next level, which is every individual is unique, and then I wholeheartedly believe that every individual is unique and their talents can be put on the surface, right? You can connect to your talent. Every individual can connect to your talent. So the point is that when you are who you are, so that's the be, do what your gifts inspire, that's the do. So it's not driven by the fact that, okay, I need to do something so that at some point I will become someone. But I do what my gifts inspire so that I have the essences, the impact that I want to create, the fuel that really drives me to be motivated and fulfilled and be in flow every single day. So the success model that we believe in Conscious Business Institute is summarized as be, do, have, be who you are, do what your talents inspire so that you have the fulfillment and the success and the impact that you're here to create. And it's very,
really
very
beautiful.
It's
a big difference. And if we highlight what the old programmation is like you are doing, do to accumulate something.
Yes.
And then to become something. And that is a very egocentric way of thinking.
Yeah.
These goals, that doesn't really mean anything if they don't have a purpose.
Yeah.
Being goals only, it's like that is why I think we have so much burnout, don't we?
Absolutely, because there is it's like a carrot in front of the donkey, right? That it's being pulled, and the donkey just keeps going after the carrot, never gets the carrot. Because guess what? What happens when you are number one as an organization, or you have achieved, and then you have your house, or you have your car, or you have your promotion? then you need the next promotion and the bigger house and the bigger car, and then it's just keep going on and on and on all the time, when what you truly fueled by are what we call feeling experiences. That how do I create freedom in my life today? How do I create adventures in my life today? How do I provide service for others today, right? It's a very different approach to fulfillment. One is that I'm becoming someone, and the other one is that I am someone, and I can access to the essences that truly fuel me in my daily life.
Yes, and when I think about nature, in nature there is no tree that is the best tree because it's the tallest one. I mean,
Yes,
we are so disconnected from the organic
absolutely.
ways of living with the natural world. And so we have become so, well, egocentric in our way to climb and climb and climb and become best. There is no
And it's,
organic circle.
yeah, and it's understandable to an extent because there is a lot of fear in it. So I think that's
Yeah.
also the very core element or to our nature, that we need to protect ourselves, or we need to protect our community, or we need to protect our close ones, right?
Mm.
And then as long as you propagate that feeling that success and survival is linked to the fact that you need to take resources from someone else, or you need to really
Mm.
become, because then you have access to those resources, then this is really what fuels the success model of fear. And that's really what fuels the fact that, okay, I'm going to have to just do more and do more and do more, and not taking really care of who you truly are, and then not taking care of the connection to your deepest
No,
values and essences.
no, because the world is actually telling you who should be. You don't
Yes,
ask yourself really, who am I? Who are
yes,
you behind the name and the title and the rest?
yeah,
And so many people don't dig so deep to find out who they are.
mm,
How do you um, welcome them to think this holistic way? How do you invite them in to take up on this journey? Because, if, for example, if you're a leader thinking about your team like, oh, they're lazy, I have to push them, and the people are leaving, and then the leader is asking themselves like, why are they leaving? Isn't it in the leader's responsibility actually to first work on its own connection, and
mm,
how they can change a mindset of their own to inspire the others so they
mm.
can thrive instead? Could you elaborate on that a little?
Yes, absolutely. So back to my conversation yesterday, and there was a question of a leader who does not really believe in connecting to his people. Okay, so and he believes that the organization needs to function, and the organization needs to produce, and then they need to have performance and sort of success in the sort of the almost the old way, right?
Yeah.
And and then he has that vision, but he doesn't have the capacity to say that it's only when I understand how I expand as a leader, then I can invite the human resources, the employees, the team into that expansion. So the problem with such an approach is that it's extremely limiting. We sometimes call it that the level of your consciousness is the limit to your growth.
Mm.
Because as long as you believe that, with the control, with the performance, with the procedures and the structure that I'm operating, I'm supposed to get more and more out of the people. And it doesn't work that way, right? Sort of the way his expansion, the big question for him will be that, okay, how do I expand myself so that I create room for expansion at a more holistic level? Because if I expand myself, I'm going to realize immediately that working as a team, creating trust in the team, empowering my team, providing clarity to my team, that's where the possibility is. That's where the expansion possibility is. But that really needs his own recognition that he needs to expand himself, and then
Yeah.
open up his world to this idea that through connection and trust and collaboration, there is so much more opportunity that he can access.
And what is the first step into actually shifting into this mindset?
Yes, but so there are a few things that happen. Often we see leaders that have this innate capacity to expand, but they don't know how, right? Sort of they keep searching, they search, they feel that, okay, the way I lead my organization, it could be maybe better. I could create much more fulfillment for myself and for the others. So there are people who are on a quest already, right? And then it's sort of never easy, but it's quite easy to work with these people because they have the curiosity to step in, right?
Yeah.
They may have fears, but we're supporting them and we're surrounding them so that the fear step by step goes away. And then there is a method to the madness, how the discovery happens.
Yeah.
So with these kind of people, it's quite simple because the curiosity is there. And the question that they're asking themselves is how? Okay, so that's one group. And it's an amazing journey to work with such people.
Yes.
The second group is people who have a setback. I mean, we meet a lot of people in our journey that, I'm sorry to say, that they may be going through a very, very, really difficult time, divorce, a death of a child, a major setback, being fired from an organization, like really almost a traumatic experience. And in that traumatic experience, they ask themselves the question that, how could I live a different life? I live my life successfully until now, but with what happened to me, I'm asking these questions from myself that maybe the way that my life continues cannot be the way it's been working until now. So the second group of the people are really people who have a major setback, a trauma that they go through, and then they suddenly ask this question that, how do I change my life? How do I change my life? I'm going to start with myself because the experience that I went through really shows me that there is another way. And I think the third group of people are more, let's say, traditional. And let's say they even successful, but they feel that they because they probably very intelligent, or they see the word, they system thinkers, they really have the capacity to onboard new ideas, even though they feel very successful and they seem very successful even in the old model. I think just by pure experiencing of their lives, they arrive to this point that maybe there is more to it. So, okay, the three groups are: one that is curious already and feels the nug inside. The second, going through trauma. The third is just naturally experiencing life in a way that the point comes when this question is going to come up, that maybe the expansion is coming through me, and then it's through my own journey into myself is that I can make progress going forward.
And then if you are this leader who is embracing this new way of working, how do you convince the investors and all the others that are pressing to get them to understand that, well, I want to lead this way now?
So I can give you examples that, first of all, they don't convince the investors. So I give you a couple of examples. Okay, so I give you an example of a woman that that sort of gets inspired by this. She leads an organization, and she says, "I'm doing it, and I'm going to apologize later."
All right.
Okay, so because there is this deep conviction inside, so she doesn't feel that she needs to convince. She's going. And then I have a couple of female examples, female leadership examples, CEOs or running business, managing director CEOs who feel this way, like, I'm going. This is my path. They innately know that this is the way to go. And then they prove it because people get a lot more engaged. They show there is performance. They say sorry later, but before they say sorry, they try, they invest, they turn the organization this way. Or take the example of, for example, Paul Polman, who is the ex-CEO of Unilever, an extremely visionary person, a very human-centric leader. And through the ranks, he arrived to the CEO position in Unilever. I think it was in 2001. It's a big case study in Harvard. And then a lot of discussion happened around his leadership at that time, where Unilever was extremely successful. And then how did he do that is that he truly connected the company back to the original purpose of the company, which was saving lives, providing hygiene to the people in Northern England. And that was the original purpose of Unilever, not to please the shareholders, right? There was a problem that the original owner of Unilever was so deeply personally impacted by or driven by that really allowed Unilever to grow into an organization what it is today. And so what Paul Polman did at that point is that he went back to the original founder, the original place where Unilever was born, and really reconnected himself as a leader to the original purpose of the organization. And then he recognized that in order for the organization to truly transform and then be a lot more purpose-driven and sort of central to the original idea, he needs to go first. So he went through his own journey, then he took his leadership onto the journey, and then he sort of impacted the whole organization. And then he had remarkable results during his tenure as a CEO.
Wow.
And then what happened is, and it's worth to look at it for the listeners of the podcast. I think it's worth to check out the Unilever story under Paul Polman, because it's quite an interesting story. And then an investor came, old success model, right? Sort of an investor came, an activist investment company came on board, and then sort of everything sort of went back to normal. And I think it's also worthwhile to check out where Unilever is today compared to where they were in 2009. And then what changed internally and externally in that organization, where, of course, the current success model drives really probably better short-term results. Because what Paul Polman had to do, he literally had to say that I'm not reporting quarterly results anymore. I have a plan. I'm transforming this ship into a lot more people-driven, purpose-driven organization where performance and engagement is going to lead us to success, which he was able to prove. But that meant that he did not meet quarterly results after quarter. Yes?
Interesting, because I mean, sustainability is long-term.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
So I mean, wow, how brave he was to do this.
Yes. Yes. An amazing case study, and an amazing person. He is an amazing person now, dedicating his life to sustainability fully and really leading a global initiative around how we can be a more sustainable, how businesses can take their role to create a more sustainable future.
Amazing. And could you also share a little bit about the original story from the Conscious Business Institute and what Peter created? He was a pioneer. I mean, he started this already 20 years ago.
Yes.
And I feel that we are in a momentum now when the world is in this shift, that they are more receptive. They can embrace this holistic way of thinking much more than 20 years ago. How was he met?
Yes.
Like an alien.
Yes. But there is his story, and then there is the story of 20 years ago, because 20 years ago, I mean, people who listen hopefully remember that 20 years ago we didn't have internet and social media and none of this, right? Sort of we were operating in the analog world, so to say. And Peter at that time was working for Apex, that's a big private equity firm. And he met company after company after company because they were investing in these companies. So he really came from the financial world, from the, what we call the classic traditional success model, driving a classic success, financial success model driven decision making. And as he was talking to hundreds of leaders in many, many organizations that they were scouting for investment purposes, he asked people sort of, what do you do in this organization? And then what is your goal in this organization? And how are you creating impact in this organization? And time after again, he realized that everybody said that, okay, I'm here to do X, Y, Z, and then I'm going to open a restaurant in Mexico. And then I'm going to take a worldwide tour. And then I'm going to do this, and this. So in other words, nobody really wanted to be there. And then the big question came as a result that, okay, sort of Why am I investing $100 million in an organization where people don't want to be? Where the goal of that organization is potentially create an impact, solve a problem, sort of really make an impact in the world through what they do.
Yeah.
And that really led him to the birth of Conscious Business Institute, with that question that there must be a more life-giving way to run organizations. It cannot be that we investing hundreds and millions of dollars into businesses where people don't want to be.
Yeah, no.
There has to be another way, and that's sort of how the essence of Conscious Business Institute was born. That how do we create life-giving organizations? What are the key elements of life-giving organizations, and how do we do it in a measurable, scalable, and sustainable way? How could this be scaled? How could this be measured? That there is another way to do business, and that's sort of the core of Conscious Business Institute.
Yeah. But isn't it also very key that Peter and his fellow colleagues at the time were also looking inward themselves and finding out that maybe there is, I remember I read one of the books, right? And I see this arrow with
Yes,
authenticity. And then
yes,
there is another arrow, the conditioned programming. And the
yes,
space in between is pain.
mm,
And we go to
yes,
bed every night
yes,
with a little unease and thinking, why am I not really happy? I have the job, I have the car, I have the
mm,
house, and still there is this nudge.
yeah,
And if they were not curious enough to really peel down all these layers to find
yeah,
out who were they before
yeah,
maybe taking on an education, because your father is a doctor and you should also be a doctor. And
mm,
I know so many people has educations that they did it and then they don't do at all that. They are artists or they are something else, but they have gone through this inner journey to
mm.
really find more out who they truly are.
Yes, absolutely. And indeed, because I think what Peter realized at that point, that so as he says it, business is not about business, business is about people.
Yeah,
Because at the end of the day, is the co-creation through the collective intelligence and energy and talent and uniqueness of the people that businesses are run. Businesses are not run through procedures and system blocks, etc. I mean, I'm sure there are many investors that wish that there
yes,
could be business like that, right? But I think as long as we have people in our businesses, I think we need to onboard this idea that
yeah,
business is not about business, business is about people. And if it's about people, then how do we fulfill their core human needs? How do we create an organization or an environment where they could be thriving or they could feel fulfilled?
exactly.
Yeah.
Because we are emotional, cognitive beings. And
Yes.
I get this scary thought that, well, when we have AI and everything, robots, the investors might be finding a new model that we are not emotional anymore at business, but we are not there yet.
No, we're not. We're not.
Because I think that the humanity will start to peel off these layers and really, I think there is a big global awakening going on.
Yeah.
And I mean, nobody would be more happy than me if that goes mainstream, that
Well,
people wants to,
I can say the same.
that people would embrace leading through a heart space. Because I
Yeah.
mean, if we peel it down, it's love and fear,
Yeah.
these two forces. And
Yeah,
if
absolutely.
you define what is driving you.
Mm.
And I was very lucky and fortunate because as young professional, I have had a mentor that was Jan Carlson, the former CEO of Scandinavian Airlines in the 80s, that totally turned the organization from a scarcity based to through a heart space. And he said, we are not flying from today, we're not flying airplanes, we're flying people.
Oh, wow.
And he wrote an amazing book. In Swedish, it's a better title because it's directly translated is Tear Down the Pyramids. So he
Mm.
flattened the organizations. And it's called Moments of Truth, and it's one of the top 10 still. It's since the 80s, is soon 50 years ago. My God.
Yeah.
And he was then talking about this thing of to be part of something bigger.
Mm.
We were, working towards a totally another goal than only how many airplanes are they going to buy and what does it cost and how many tickets are we selling.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
So you
what
see
did I
this
want to say with
idea.
that? But I mean, we are talking about this thing of love and fear. Yeah, he was proclaiming that we have to
Yeah.
go through love.
Mm.
Yeah.
So you see, this idea is not new. So I don't think that we're
No,
saying that, okay,
there
there
were
is a lot of,
pioneers, but
yeah. So there were people who innately understood this, and maybe they did
yeah,
not call it conscious business, or they did not
no.
call it heart-centered business, or whatever business. They just did what they were supposed to, what they felt was right, not only for themselves, but for the people that they worked with. Yeah,
Yes, and you say felt what was right. And that
exactly.
is felt with the heart,
Yeah.
and not only think what is right.
Yes. Yes.
I'm happy if the signals comes first here up to the brain and
Yeah.
not the other way around.
Yes.
I mean, it could be a very good assistant to have a good thinking mind, but I mean,
Mm.
it's the only polarized organ we have in the body. But there is two.
Yeah.
And yes and no and black and white. It's no matter. It's not strange that we are overthinking a lot.
Mm.
So we
But
have to go
maybe
down to the heart.
I don't know if it's true, but hopefully that the left part of your brain comes down to your heart and then it goes back to
Mm.
the right brain. I have no idea, but it would be nice if it was that way, that your brain is connected through your heart. I don't know if
But it
this is.
is
It is.
because we have a heart brain. There is
Okay.
60,000 neurocells just
Hmm.
next to the heart,
Okay.
and if we can activate that, we can. I will lead a meditation next week when you are here in Barcelona, a
Nice.
heart-centered meditation. I can't
Mm.
do it here with the listeners, but I can lend. I can put the link to one of my favorites ones that Greg Braden is doing. He's
Hmm.
explaining this thing with how to feel with the heart
Hmm.
and how we can bring us to the heart by just connecting to gratitude,
Yes.
because that brings us to the present moment,
Yes. So
and
you
let
see,
this rest for a moment, the
I
brain.
think for people who are, because there are some people who are innately analytical, and then they would say that,
Mm.
okay, when my brain tells me the truth, then that's the truth, right? Sort of, I mean, some people have a hard time to, this is sort of, we say always that this is the longest route, from your brain to your heart, because it's very difficult to really be in coherence between your brain and heart. But it could almost be explained to them that that's sort of how you have expansion when you really activate this circle, right? Sort of, because there is a I believe that there is a role for your left side of the brain because it's there, right? There is the role for your right side. There is a role for your heart.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah,
it's all about how do I create the symbiosis between these different parts. So I believe that even for people who are extremely analytical and extremely intellect driven, there is a way that this can be now opening up, sort of that
absolutely.
open up this new idea and what was not possible
And how
in
to
the
use this device, because
yes,
we are a device.
yeah,
This is the inner technology. If we
yeah,
can use that language so people are more, not
yeah,
to, science is the modern language for mysticism today. And
hmm,
thank God they are making a lot of research on
yes,
these things now. So
yes,
we are learning where we have been walking around for decades and siglos and with a full body human design that we really don't know how to use it. It's
yeah,
just there.
yeah,
And we we haven't really found out like what consequences of everything we put in ourselves, and
mm,
also the thoughts. For
yeah,
these analytical people, it also can be an eye opener when they understand that we are not our thoughts.
mm,
We
yeah,
have thoughts,
yes, totally, totally,
and how you can unlearn and reprogram
yeah, yes,
your brain to think more openly and
mm,
positive thoughts. It's
yeah.
not about being positive only. It's more deep.
No, no. I think it's about the symbiosis.
Rewiring
Yes.
and how to use it so it serves you,
Yeah.
that your mind is not mastering you, because we
Yeah.
can become slaves if we
Hmm.
get into "Ooh."
Yeah.
So it's interesting,
Uh, uh,
and this
you-
makes me think about the color assessment that you have in the Conscious Business
Yes.
Institute, which I love. And I will leave a link for it under the podcast too, so everybody can go in and get a picture of who they really are.
Yes,
could you
absolutely.
could you tell us a little bit about what is the color assessment?
Um, so maybe the way I will start talking about this, that I'm sure that listeners of this podcast in particular, they know that when they show up in a room, just by being present in that room, they bring a certain magic, right? And then when
Mm.
they leave that room, there is this, what we call the magic dust stays in the room, it lingers. I'm sure that your listeners also could relate to the fact that sometimes they don't even have to say something, but things get dissolved just by their pure presence in an environment. And I'm sure that people can relate to, some people will relate to the fact that, okay, they do it just being still. Some people do it being funny. Some people do it being insightful. Some people doing being it visionary. But the how we lead life, we have these different ways of doing that, right? And
Like
that's
archetypes a little bit.
maybe a little bit of archetypes, but it's more about, as you said, that we are energetic beings living a
Yeah.
physical experience. So it's
Mm.
really the energetic makeup of your functioning. Okay.
I
And then
love
we
that
call it,
description.
yeah, so we call it the colors. And because really what it is that we work with some individuals who could literally see these colors of people. So when you have a conversation with the person that we work with in Conscious Business Institute who sees these colors, it's like being seen for your soul, right?
Mm.
Sort of, it's not your conditioning that he sees. It's not your childhood that he sees. It's not, how you try to show up and put a mask on that he sees. He truly sees your energetic makeup. He truly sees your soul and the purpose of your soul why you're here in the first place. And then we have several colors. And the most people that we work with in Conscious Business Institute, they are what we call violet, primarily violet, but with yellow. And what does it mean, violet and yellow? And Jessica, probably sort of
Yes.
you could explain that, right? But
Well, it's better if you explain it to the listeners than
well,
me.
I'm not sure because I think you really connect to this. So these are really the visionary people that feel that inner nudge of I'm going to create an impact. I'm here to do something big.
Mm.
I have the energy to do it. And you do it through that very strong energy that drives you that way, right? Sort of, these are really the violet people. And then violet without the yellow um, is extremely purpose driven, but absolutely not human centric. So it's
Oh.
it's the yellow that brings the human centricity. So when you have a visionary leader who just has a vision, but without the human centricity, then the kind of person that you can think of are the people who really go through really hurdles after hurdles after hurdle, and then there are a lot of sort of dead bodies around them, right? Because but the world has changed, except that there is a huge price to that change. So the
Yeah.
leaders that we really love working with in Conscious Business Institute are those that have both violet and yellow, because the yellow really brings the human centricity, the fun loving, the joy, then it's when the vision joins fulfillment and human centricity.
Yeah.
That to me is the archetype of a conscious leader.
Wow. I'm a conscious leader.
Oh,
I'm joking a little bit because I have violet and yellow.
I know.
But it was so, yeah, it's a thrill to go through the test and then to read the result. I mean, I really encourage all the listeners to do this for fun
Yeah.
because it will provoke and disrupt some thoughts for sure. And
Mm.
that can always be the first step into a more, could I change something here in my leadership
Exactly.
or a
Absolutely, Jessica.
workspace? I
Because
think
what
that,
what it does, it that's the first. When I always say it, that when we start working with people, that is going to be week 6 when your whole world is going to change, and that happens to be when we do the test with them, and then we provide reading, like a deeper reading, not just the test, but we, as I said, we have someone that we consult, and then we sort of really go a little bit deeper than just the test, which has your biases, by the way. So people with confirmation bias can come up with different colors, and I had a funny story about this, which I may tell later if it comes to it. But so when we don't have the conditioning, when really someone sees you for who you are through your picture, or just, when you and I met, I saw you, right? The way you were.
Yes.
You didn't have to tell me anything, or you didn't have to perform or put a mask, or I saw your soul rather than what you were trying to project. And that's the moment when I think people realize that, there is a much bigger context within which I play a role. So it really opens up this curiosity to oneness. It opens up the curiosity of what else is there. And that's the starting point of the journey, when we methodologically go through with them the journey of discovery of really what pulls them forward and what keeps them small.
Yes, and the collective and the unity consciousness that is rising now. Because inner development is not an individual pursuit. It's more than that. It's like actually it is a collective thing.
Yes.
And the magic really happens when we get together with other people like-minded.
Absolutely.
And who wants to also do a change. And that is contagious. That's magic.
Yes.
And that's why I'm on this mission to find the others. I found you. Find the others is my hashtag. Find the others, because time is precious.
Yeah.
And we have to start to create this conscious world that we are living in.
Yeah.
Humanity. We are on the doorstep to what I believe to step up as humans. The human potential development now is increasing because of the interest in the inner dimension.
Yeah.
And the female leadership. The majority are female leaders, but I have to give an eloge to the men who dare to be vulnerable too in their leadership.
And we see many, many of them in our institute. A lot of
those are the real men, I think.
Yes.
That's the macho man for me, who dares to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
Not the old paradigm macho. But management by fear is unmodern. It's crumbling. Thank God.
It's certainly limiting. I think it's certainly
limiting.
Because it's, I always talk about it like this, that in my 30 years of the corporate life that I led, you could see that the problems that we needed to solve 30 years ago were minuscule compared to the complexity of what's going on right now. And I had a beautiful sort of experience right at the beginning of my career, where I found myself in a quite complex environment where trust had to be part of the story. So even if it was a very traditional environment, Citibank 30 years ago, etc., the circumstances were such that the leadership had to trust the employees because of the circumstances. And it was in Hungary. It was at the time of the communist change to capitalism. So it was so complex that trust had to be part of the story. And that's what fueled me for the next 30 years, literally. And then this is what my credo was as a leader. And why it is so important is because you can manage by control a relatively simple problem. So if there is a mistake in your Excel sheet, make sure that you control it and you execute, right? It's a simple problem. But when you have a worldwide organization within which there are, let's say, just 50 countries with 50 different contexts in those countries, where the product that you're trying to launch will land differently in one country versus another, can you really control that? Or you need to create an environment where trust is embedded into the culture of your organization, where decision-making happens closest to where the context is. And
Yes.
that needs sort of, there is a very logical way to think about why we need trust-based leadership and why we need empowered organization today, and why this was sort of okay in the 40s and the 50s, where the problem was really not complex. And
Yeah.
that required, or that may have, people may have gotten away with the control driven way of managing. That's
Yes.
just not possible anymore. That's just not
No, it's
possible.
not.
No.
Wow. You just gave a panorama. It's quite breathtaking if you think about it.
Yeah. So it's a necessity. I don't think it needs to be even questioned why we need to do it. I am a logical person, but if if I was sort of a more traditional leader, I mean, I would have come down to this conclusion on my own that if I control, I'm limited to my own intellect. If I embrace a diverse, trust-based, transparent culture, I expand into the collective intelligence. And I
Yes.
can just do the math, right? That sort of, I mean, if I believe that through human intelligence or collective intelligence, there is so much more expansion, there is so much more possibility. I don't know
Mm.
why would people not say that I'm going to try this. So I don't know. I don't know why would people say that
I,
it's I'm going to stay in my own limited view of what I can control is what my truth is or what my reality is.
I guess it's difficult to learn if you already know, as they say in inner
Yes.
development goals. Yeah,
Yes.
and people are knowers
Yes.
sometimes, and
Yeah.
especially experts that they are experts in the field. Many times that it's like they think that they know everything else too, and then they
Yeah.
stay in that. It's
Mm.
very limiting
Yeah.
not to choose the learner mindset,
Yeah.
being the knower,
Absolutely. Exactly.
because that is how we become players and
Yeah.
not victims.
Yes. I
Um,
always, I'm a true believer in context. So if we are able to bring the context to the consciousness of people,
hmm,
then they see the limitations of their knowingness, or it's sort of, okay, I'm an expert in what context?
yeah,
In what context are you an expert? So how could we enlarge the context within which we can inject a little bit of the curiosity of the learner principle, right?
yeah,
and
yeah.
and so in other words, there are ways to work with people. I mean, back to your original question, that how do we work with people, what are the people that we work with, how do we open up this possibility, is through
Hmm,
this work. I mean, personalization, because we understand their energetic makeup. It's through understanding their limitations, their fears. It's understanding how do we bring them to a context large enough within which they start the journey.
yeah.
And then we work with them because we learned in the last 20 years exactly how the different bits and pieces fit together, and how we can do it in a scalable way to organizations as well.
And
Yeah.
to really understand also what is their own purpose.
Yes. Yeah. That's part of the journey. Yeah.
Because I think that personal purpose has to be aligned always with where
Yeah.
you choose to work. I mean, the higher
Absolutely.
purpose of a company
Yeah.
has to be aligned with your values. And
Absolutely.
if
Absolutely.
not, you are going against yourself,
Yeah.
playing that role.
Yeah.
And I'm part of that group that you exemplified as something big has to happen to get them out of,
Mm,
because I was creating dis-ease by,
mm,
like not, I was so externally focused on profit, 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 and only pleasing my clients, that I was totally forgetting about my own values
mm.
and my own needs. And
Yeah.
so created my own disease. I'm totally convinced of that.
Yeah.
So it's absolutely a matter of life and death to be close to your own heart, and to know your purpose and to know who you are.
Mm.
If not, can
Absolutely.
have crucial consequences.
Yeah. And we see it every single day through the burnouts,
Mm. Yes.
the just the way how people show up at work. And I always see it this way, that I always explain it like a let's say that it's a carriage, and then there are 10 people in the organization. When you look at today's world, how organizations function, there are typically 2 or 3 people of the 10 that pulls the carriage forward. There are 5 people who are sitting on it, but the carriage would not move forward by those people. And there are 2 that literally pull it in the other direction. That's how today's organizations function. 2, 3 that pulling forward, 2 that are pulling backward, and 5 that are sitting on it. And I'm asking that energetically, just physical energetically, what do you create with this? What do you create with this? So how can we put at least one more person in front of the carriage? Or how can we put one person that pulls it in the other direction on the carriage so that we can start moving forward, whatever that forward is for organization?
Alignment.
Yes. Yes.
And I
Yes.
mean, the engagement at work today in Europe is 15%
Yeah.
of the
So
employees.
at best, 2 people are pulling forward.
You
You see?
know, in
Yeah.
Spain, it's 11%.
One person is pulling forward the carriage. You see?
And they call it this silent quitting, that people are sitting,
Mm.
not speaking up,
Mm.
full of assets to the company, but they are not getting anything out because they are not encouraging them. They are
No,
working
they are
against them,
sitting on the
pressing
carriage.
them.
Yes, they're sitting. They're not pulling forward, right?
And so, yeah, the mission of the Conscious Business Institute is
Is
loud
this?
and clear.
Is this? Yes.
Yes, and it's loud and clear that this is the road to more sane ways of life. Where
Mm.
you said before, business is not business only; it's about to fulfill our human needs.
Yes. Yeah.
Mm.
Through joining together to solve a problem that's bigger than us. You see, that to me,
Yes,
it sums
that
it
is
up.
bigger than us. Yeah,
Yeah.
and that everyone in this team has to be aligned with that
Yeah.
purpose
Yes.
to feel that I'm pulling the wagon in the same direction.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
waking up knowing what I should do,
Yeah.
motivated. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, now I can talk about this for hours, but if there is anything more you want to add to this conversation that you want to tell the listeners, anything that, yeah, you want to tell them that maybe they should read or look, or feel free to.
Well, I mean, maybe just one thing, that as they listen and wherever they are, maybe they are leaders in an organization, maybe they are employees in an organization, maybe they're running their own businesses. I invite them to check in with themselves, that are my human needs fulfilled as I'm waking up every morning and then I'm about to get to work? Or am I more in a state of, Jesus, when is my next vacation? Oh my God, I don't want to go back to work on Monday. So really understand your relationship to work. Start understanding and checking in with your own human needs. And then if you have curiosity, then the journey is going to unfold in itself. And of course, we have resources to accelerate the journey, but it's really an internal decision. And that internal decision starts with that observation, or with that awareness. How am I doing as a human being on Monday morning when I'm about to get to work?
Mm. Amazing. I think that people will reflect on what you just said, Zsuzsanna. Thank you so much for being part of the Conscious podcast.
Thank you.
And I'm amazed to have met you, and where these conversations will lead us into the future. I'm very curious of that.
Yes. And next week, we're going to see the first steps of that, I hope.
Yes, and because we can also promote the event here in the podcast, because the inner development goals here in Barcelona, we have a IDG Barcelona Business Hub that is run by 5 partners. It's Verify, IKEA, United Partners, Impact Hub Barcelona, and ESADE Business School. These 5 partners has put together events where we are showcasing how these partners are using the inner development framework in their daily business practices. And next week, Zsuzsanna will be here to perform a hands-on workshop in how to go from doing out from your beingness.
Yes.
How to be authentic, right?
Yes.
So if you're curious, just like me, come and meet us in Impact Hub Barcelona next Wednesday at 6:30. And I will also leave a link to it underneath the podcast, so you can sign up. It's free, and it's an amazing community. And the frequency of those events, I mean, talking about energy, people are zooming in on the same frequency. It's really uplifting. You really feel close to your own purpose when you leave. And that
Yeah.
has given me so much hope. And that is where I also find the others. And
Absolutely,
I'm
Jessica.
so happy to welcome you there, Zsuzsanna.
Yeah,
So
me
see
too.
you
I'm
next
very, very
week.
happy. See you next week, Jessica. Thank you so much for this conversation. Thank you for
Thank
holding the
you.
space for these kind of conversations. It's amazing what you do.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.